Welcome to the ABC Podcast Special 2023, brought to you by Hamilton Fraser and our headline sponsor, Mertz.
Hi, and a very warm welcome everybody to this ABC Vodcast Special. My name is Kate Fairbanks. I'm the content manager for Hamilton Fraser, and over the next 30 minutes, I'm delighted to be bringing you a flavour, a wrap-up if you will, on what has been a fantastic and insightful Aesthetics Business Conference 2023. On Tuesday the 19th of September, Hamilton Fraser were at the Royal College of Physicians hosting an exciting and educational agenda for the one-day event, including some of the industry's best-known and well-respected practitioners who are at the top of their game. With over 25 years in the cosmetic sector, Hamilton Fraser set up the ABC to help new practitioners looking to start their own businesses within the aesthetics sector. This year, we were also the first to offer guidance on the upcoming industry regulations and licensing at our medicolegal sessions with the JCCP. So without further ado, let's dive into our first guest speaker, Time Clinic's Medical Director, Dr. Manav Bauer. Dr. Bauer led the session on how to start your business and offered some key takeaways for our audience.
The main takeaways would be have patience. It takes time to grow, and it's something that I don't have. I'm very impatient, as I said in my talk. But no matter what you see on Instagram and no matter what you see other people doing, focus on your own journey, know where you want to be in 5 or 10 years' time, and work hard towards there. And so I think that's probably the biggest tip that I have. I would say to research the industry. It's a fantastic and rapidly growing industry, but research it. Go on taster days, do your foundation course and see how you feel, because it may be right for you, but it may not be right for you as well. So dip your toe in, see how you feel, and if you start becoming really passionate about it, then go for it. So new practitioners, I would say, go to a good quality training academy, really learn the basics, but focus on the consultation. Because yes, we'll learn the practical skills and that will evolve naturally. But the biggest thing I see where there's a gap is consultation. Good consultation, good examination, focus on looking at patients with a 360-degree view and how to help them holistically. And I think that will grow your practice. So the essential skills that I believe we need to acquire when we're first starting in the industry, first, anatomy. We've got to know our anatomy, and as I mentioned in my talk, we've got to know as we're injecting that patient, as that needle's going through the skin and deeper, we've got to be able to visualize in 3D the trajectory of that needle. And that way, we'll know where we're placing our product. We'll reduce complications as well. So anatomy is key. I would have done lots of things differently. I think one thing that stands out is not believing everything I saw on Instagram. And I'll give you an example. When I was first starting, I was following somebody locally, and there was a video of a box full of dermal filler, and they opened the box full up. It's going to be a busy day today. And I thought, oh my gosh, these guys are going through that much product in one day. And I thought, what am I doing wrong? But now I know that would have lasted them a month. So don't believe everything you see. The other thing is don't jump on the latest fad. So another thing that I did was I saw someone doing IV drips, and I thought, actually, I need to go and train in this. I need to get on that whole drip IV infusion thing. And I did the course. It cost me £1,000, and guess how many patients I treated? 1. And that was a colleague.
We sat down with Dr. Harry Singh, founder and CEO of the Botulinum Toxin Club. Dr. Singh shared his journey into facial aesthetics, which began 21 years ago.
It was actually during the recession of 2007, 2008, because I opened a private squat. So a squat, for the listeners, is a new practice with no existing patients. And it was going to be on the premises of a lot of cosmetic dentistry, a lot of invisible braces, smile makeovers, veneers, like 10 years younger, the program. That was on very good then. So 2007, I opened it. Then 2008, we had the recession. And what I found was my dentistry went down, cosmetic dentistry, but the facial aesthetics went up. And I mean, something called the lipstick effect, where you have a recession or credit crunch or cost of living, patients will find money on smaller amounts of money compared to like a cosmetic makeover to feel good about themselves, and my facial aesthetics rocketed. And what I actually found was that I enjoyed this more. It didn't feel like work. Patients wanted to see me. Most patients with dentistry say, oh, nothing personal, I hate the dentist. So they wanted to see me. They treated like a beauty treatment. I really enjoyed that interaction. And the other reason, health reason, was I was getting a lot of lower back pain with dentistry because a lot of bending over, awkward positions. With facial aesthetics, I'm normally standing up. So I thought, okay, this is taking over. In terms of expenses, dentistry was quite high with the cost of leasing equipment, dental chairs. I go, dentistry is costing me all the money, but facial aesthetics is very minimal cost, but it's making me all the money. Spend as much time and money, energy on retaining patients as well as converting and acquiring new patients. So as I said in my talk, if you go on Amazon and look at business books, 80% on sales, how to get new customers, new patients, and only 20% is of retention, customer service. And I feel that's the most important because it's always easy to retain an existing patient than convert or get a new patient 6 times cheaper to retain. So the premises of the talk was, patient retention via excellent customer service. Couple of tips, stay in your own lane. Don't look at what everyone else is doing, especially on social media. You're looking at their best page in their book comparing to your worst page in your own book. And obviously most people only post successful stories where, like, for example, if you're a dentist, you'd think every dentist is doing 50 implants a day, 200 press-ups before they make their avocado juice and go to work there. So they always don't compare yourself. So basically stay away from social media, stay in your own lane. You've got your own story, your own success, your own path, forget about everyone else. And I had a conversation with one of your delegates earlier, just after my talk, and he was asking me how much time should I spend between clinical and business, and I would say 50-50. So whatever, let's say you're doing a couple of sessions a week, facial aesthetics, say 8 hours, you want to spend equivalent time on the business side, the marketing, the branding, because you need to generate those new inquiries. No, there's room for everyone. So I started back in 2002, and it was undercover secret, not obviously our clinic, but patients asking for treatments and recommending patients. It's a growing industry. I think recent studies show that £3 billion industry. So it's growing year on year there. So you may think this is very competitive because a lot of people are doing it, but don't forget the market is growing much more than the people offering it. And 2, what I found is a lot of dabblers in terms of they may go on a one-day course or weekend course, they may do it and then they haven't got the right business or the marketing plan and they give it up there. So don't worry about the amount of people doing the courses. It's amount of people actually practice is still well below the amount of patients are asking for these services.
Dr. Priya Chadha, Director of Acquisition Aesthetics Training Academy, talked us through what inspired her to go into aesthetic practice.
Honest answer to this is I fell into medicine rather accidentally because I've got 2 siblings who are both medics and I just sort of copied, and in true Priya fashion I didn't do my due diligence to see what else I might want to do, and I was good at sciences so I fell into it. And so once I was in medicine, again in true Priya fashion, I was very impatient and wanted to figure out what I wanted to do really early. So in my second year of medicine I started doing small electives and everyone else was having a great time, and I did a bit of obs and gynae and loved the obs and hated the gynae, and then I did a bit of general surgery, and then I did plastics and I really enjoyed it. And I found like-minded people and a family that I thought I could belong with. Again, the off-piste answer, I really like the concept of beauty, attractiveness and confidence. And I really love, truly, hair and makeup. So I always used to say to my parents, if I don't do medicine and it doesn't work out, I want to do hair and makeup. And so that now I can piece that all together, being good at the sciences and hair and makeup and beauty and things like that. I can understand now how it's all translated into aesthetic medicine. And aesthetic medicine, truly, I feel very at home, perhaps even more so sometimes than plastic surgery. But I think that's the easiest non-job interview answer of how I fell into it. The job interview answer was, of course, I was this, medic and became plastic surgery, and then naturally reconstructive plastic surgery and aesthetic medicine paired together. And but the truth really be told, it's just what I fell into because I enjoyed it. And aesthetic medicine came around, 25 years ago, but when I got into it 12 years ago, exactly when I needed it to, because I was a bit lost in the treadmill of becoming a surgeon. And actually, it's something I'm phenomenally passionate about, and fits really great with my personality, I think. Essentially, I actually spoke about the concepts of aesthetic medicine and training in aesthetic medicine and all you need to know, but I actually did it from a bit of a different angle, which was rather than objectively giving you a list about the courses or the places or the types of technologies or the modalities of learning, small group, large group, online, practical, etc., rather than doing that, which I think has been done quite a lot, I actually went down the route of the concept of finding your tribe, wherever that might be or whoever that might be, for the best environmental learning. So actually, I think it's better to advocate that you find your tribe and who you're going to best learn from in terms of providing good training, because really when you're looking for training academies or indeed training in aesthetic medicine, and you look in the top places, all of the training academies, and I would say this about my colleagues, are really worth going to. They're all very good in terms of the top 3 or 4 or 5 in the UK. And so really you've got to go one step more than that and say if they're much of a muchness, and if the training delivered is all quite good and they're all keeping up with each other in terms of their course offering and the way that they deliver it, which they really are, we all really are, then actually now you've got to go one step further to saying who's going to create the best learning environment, who will be the best tribe for me to connect with, be vulnerable with, and therefore improve my learning, and who's going to create a platform for me to continue growing. And that's a very different question to who's got the most awards and who's the best training academy. So I was saying that actually Daniel Coyle and Brené Brown, who are just 2 incredible authors and speakers, constantly go on about the concept of connection, and the fact that actually human life and what we do is meaningless without connection. That applies to work, home life, family life. The second is vulnerability. And the third, which is so strong and a determinant of how well you'll do, whatever well success means to you, is belonging cues in regards to whether you belong to that tribe, whether they make you feel belonging, and actually will they foster your growth in your learning. And that inevitably will determine how good your training is for you, and how success is determined how successful you will be. Nothing will replace practice, and that is what it is. It's an apprenticeship in practice, that's for sure. But now, because of safety and the nature of what we do, you cannot practice, in my opinion, without a community. And that means 1 person, 10 people, training, whatever that might be, a community to feedback, critique, improve, and also promote your confidence if it's a great result, whatever it might be, but to learn from. So there is no substitute for practice and learning, continued learning. And actually, I always say now, with what we have available to us in AI, online webinars, conferences, ABC and things like that, there's a plethora of things. So there's no excuse for not continuously learning. That's theory, and then applying it has to be your practice. Feedback, growing on the feedback, and advancing your techniques. And the rate that aesthetic medicine is growing at, and the acceleration it's got, means you'll never keep up with it by definition. And so there's only one way to go, which is up. So try not to have inertia or fear. Try to really get stuck in a safe way with a community or group that will support you to do that. That choice has to be made by themselves, and as a benchmark, I still undergo training. I still go and learn from people globally. I still spend time with my colleagues and contemporaries and speakers that are really wonderful, and injectors and plastic surgeons and people from other specialties, in order to learn. If you stop being inquisitive and stop learning, you are absolutely, without fail, by definition, going to hit a ceiling, and you will never know what you could achieve or how good you could be. So in terms of continuous learning, in my head, there's no debate about it. And because the specialty is new, we're still in our first 30 years, the learning that's going to happen and going to be needed is going to be far more significant. One won't be able to keep up with the rate of it. We'll get quite waylaid. We'll probably need to hone in on certain areas because it's a huge specialty that's going to expand. So in regards to the concept of do you need to keep learning, the answer is yes, and there's not much question in that for me. It's like saying, do you need to learn in any other areas of your life? We're constantly learning, and it might be subliminal, but we are. And thereafter, because the specialty is evolving and growing so much, you're going to have to keep up. You'll soon be out of fashion or out of touch, and actually you'll be doing the incorrect thing. The question really becomes, is the incorrect thing going to land you in hot water? And that's going to be a lot of trouble. And in terms of HCPs and responsible HCPs, that's not an option. That cannot happen. It's really important that you protect yourself with training, legal protection, insurance, whatever it might be, in order to not end up in that situation, because that is not a good place to be. It depends on what your version of a good practitioner is personally, and thereafter there are certain attributes, but patient safety, outcomes, techniques, continued learning, and then somewhere along the line of your medical hat on, you've got to mix it with the business.
We were delighted to host Professor David Saenz, leading national expert on the new licensing scheme and chair of the Joint Council for Cosmetic Practitioners. David explains the timings of the government's consultation into non-surgical cosmetic procedures and the new regulations to be introduced.
Put it into very simple terms. Here's the first consultation. It's great. It's there. We like it. We think it's right. It's robust. That closes on the 28th of October this year. So there will be significant work then to review, reflect, inform the next stage of the government's consultation plan. There then will be significant work in 2024 on starting to review the standards that need to underpin those. That will then inform education and training responses, etc., competence development. That will run, I'm convinced, throughout 2024 and probably into 2025. Another consultation then, I think, to say, it's what we think. I can't see why there wouldn't be. So that takes us then within 1 year of implementation, where in the meantime we've got to work to design the scheme of licensing, preparing environmental health officers with the knowledge, the skills, and providing them with operating manuals and guidance on how to actually put this licensing scheme into place. So implementation, I reckon, sometime during early to mid 2026. Just prior to it coming in, though, the government has to take its proposals back to Parliament, both houses. I'm not suggesting a major debate, but there is a requirement to have them formally endorsed by Parliament. Then there will be an implementation date, 2026, with, I guess, that 2-year period of enabling and implementation thereafter. We're now in an amazing place, I think, with the consultation launch, but it's almost the beginning of the next phase, to be honest, because the standards have got to be written, we've got to get consensus on the consultation, so more to do. I'm asked that question every day. I think it's an important question to be ethically sound and to be fair to practitioners, to say until the new standard is actually defined, there is no current qualification that we can guarantee would meet the new standard. I think that speaks for itself. But I would say that anybody who's undertaking a university-based postgraduate course in aesthetic medicine or aesthetic science, or any postgraduate program, any off-call accredited program that, such as those that the JCCP recognises, you've got to be on your way towards the new qualification. There might be some requirements for top-up learning, but that's the very best we can say. What I do know is that it's just not sensible to go out and be almost seduced into taking rapid responses for 3-day courses, or you've got to do this in 3 weeks. If anybody tells you their course will meet the new standard, they are not being truthful, because we do not know the new standard yet. But stay firm, watch very carefully, but I would say if you have the opportunity to undertake an off-call approved programme at the moment, then it's sensible, but it's not assured. Similarly, any of the JCCP approved training providers and the qualifications, they're on our website. I don't want to name them publicly. It's not appropriate to do that. But I would say you will certainly be able to confirm evidence to complying with the HEE standards and the JCCP standards, which build on those. So pretty strong, I think, baseline to work from towards the new standards. Start now. I mean, engaging with the consultation, providing opinion individually and through groups, network groups, professional groups, membership groups, crucial. So one could not argue, or I would say you cannot in any way reduce the importance of that impact of voice at the moment, influence it. Stand up, I think, and be very clear about your professional standards and what you believe, because at the primacy of all you do is patient safety and public protection. So the more you can demonstrate that, clearly you're going to put yourself ethically and professionally in a very good place, ready for new licence. I think the other thing is to report your complications openly, because that, again, is a very good indicator of excellent practice. And there's nothing wrong with reporting complications. It's when you don't report and get into this very negative state of failing to exercise your duty of candour. So that's a public protection part, I think, is really important to be true to, almost renewing your energy in that space. Attending webinars, attending conferences and discussion groups to keep the conversation going, because people will be listening. We've got to develop the standards that are realistic, but also they have to be proportionate to managing patient expectation and risk of emotional, psychological or physical challenge. But you know what? There's a lot to celebrate. So the other part is to be positive and to say, I know I do my job well. Members of the public tell me I do my job well. Well, that's great. All we're doing is to bring in another layer of public protection so that we can manage out unacceptable or unwarranted variation in standards of quality. So we should all be trying to do that. Everyone needs an individual response, but we must not in any way defend unwarranted variation where public safety is compromised. So it's all of that, but in the meantime, it's watching this space, and the minute the standards are available, to then map your experience onto those, and we hope by then to have some flexible routes to demonstrate compliance and compliance, but also how you can demonstrate you've mapped your own experience and knowledge against those standards. Where the gaps are, by then, that gap analysis should allow us, well before the time, to get some of those actual learning experiences built into your portfolio, and keep a portfolio of evidence of what you have over the next 2 years. We're all in this for public protection and patient safety. If we're not healthcare professionals, then why are we doing this? I think that's the first thing. It's part of our raison d'etre, and it's actually and it's really important that we focus on that. But I think we should remain positive. I really do. So there will be things to do. There will be some challenges ahead. But you know, once you have that licence, and it's above the door, you are absolutely, clearly and firmly and legitimately open for continuing business that will be future-proofed. So the effort is worth putting in place, because your licence will tell you and members of the public and those who work with you that you have not only met the standard, that you're proud and willing to celebrate your success together. So I think be resilient, be firm, but be curious. That is my last point. Be curious, not too challenged or frightened, but remain curious about the importance of the message and keep on message.
Another guest on our medico-legal panel this year was Diane Hay, founder and CEO of Harmonia Training Academy and a specialist in standard setting for technical and professional educational routes to employment. Diane looked at the implications of licensing for beauty therapists.
So our understanding is that it's not actually meant to be restrictive to practice, but it is meant to improve standards in practice. There is an established group of industry professionals, which the industry groups and organisations all sit around, and it's called the BIG, it's the Beauty Industry Group, who collectively meet to discuss the challenges and also opportunities that the industry is facing, and out of that group there is a task and finish group specifically for licensing that I chair, and that group is made up of the BABTAC, which is the British Association of Beauty Therapy and Cosmetology, the British Beauty Council, HABIA, so the Hair and Beauty Industry Authority, NHBF, which is the National Hairdressing and Beauty Federation, and UKSA, which is the UK Spa Association. So those organisations are working on behalf of the broader sector to look at the implications and the development of the licensing. And I think as a business owner, with my business owner hat on, it's important for those people who are gaining professional qualifications and regulated qualification processes and pathways, that actually for those of us that are doing this right, we think the licensing will put a stop to that. So very short courses where people, can come from any background and they haven't really done the training to get them to that point. And the licensing will bring in a pathway which is identified in the occupational map, which is a public domain document from the Department for Education, and that shows how somebody can enter our part of the sector at level 2 and go through level 2, level 3, level 4 and level 5 and onwards to level 6 and 7. So, and I know that's a desire of everybody to have, regulated, professionally competent, proficient practitioners who have the safety of their clients and guests at the middle of what they do, and so that's really been the drive. I think the concern is that beauty therapists who are complying and running their businesses appropriately, there's some concern about possibly where some of the categorizations may have come out. However, we were all involved in that. We didn't see when the final piece came out, we'd given guidance, as had other colleagues, and we were all sat around the table with CIEH, who obviously the environmental health practitioners will be the people who will enforce the license. So there is conversation happening, but it's not there to be restrictive. It's there to stop rogue practitioners from practicing.
We also spoke to the head of marketing at Hamilton Fraser, Owen Woods. Owen shared his top marketing tips for aesthetic practitioners.
One of the most important aspects the practitioners have is how they can differentiate themselves from the competition. So competition is a good thing. Competition raises standards. But fundamentally, how can you stand out from your competitors? And I think there are a few key takeaways that the aesthetic practitioners need to understand is what are their USPs? So what sets them out differently from the competition? So is it that they have a bigger team of practitioners who are on hand, that are open on the weekends? You really need to sort of define what those are, so you know why you are different from your competitors. Once you know why you're different, you can then start to seek out the correct target audience, and align your USPs to that audience, so they actually can feel the same values and really buy into your brand as opposed to someone else's.
And finally, before we headed off to our champagne reception, we asked the CEO of Hamilton Fraser, Eddie Hooker, for his top ABC 2023 takeaway.
I'm hoping with the forthcoming licensing regimes, where insurance is going to form a very large part of your evidencing that you are a competent practitioner and that you take seriously patient safety. What I wanted to do today was really go back to the basics of what Hamilton Fraser is about, which ultimately, yes, we run ABC, yes, we've got a voice in the market, yes, we work very closely with the JCCP, but fundamentally, we built our success on providing the right type of insurance for practitioners. And remember, I did this back in 1996 when there was just me just doing it. Hamilton Fraser was just doing it. Well, now there are many, many insurance companies out there, but not all of them have the same experience and understanding of insurance that we do. And what I do have worried over the years is that practitioners have really looked at price as the driver for their insurance rather than the quality of the cover and the right cover. I had quite a few people coming up to me during the day actually talking about, asking me questions about the difference between the corporate entity insurance and the private practitioner. Now, I'm not proposing to go through that now, but ultimately there is still confusion out there as to the type and scope of insurance that practitioners want. And certainly with licensing coming down the road, you're going to need to make sure you understand the covers that you've got so that they're relevant and they will get you through the licensing hoops when they come in. Our product is aimed specifically at the medical aesthetic practitioner. So we've got clauses, we've got conditions that relate specifically, for example, before and after photos when you're doing a treatment, things like personal accident cover, so that if you're ill, remember practitioners use their hands a lot, so if anything was to happen to their hands, then you've got personal accident cover. A lot of practitioners roam around various businesses, so we've got the right cover to protect you when you're roaming or you're working in multiple different premises. And I think also when you ring Hamilton Fraser or you go onto the Hamilton Fraser website, we do understand the procedures that you're doing, and if you go onto our website, if you talk to anyone, there are tens and hundreds probably of treatments out there which all come through us and we understand them. So when you're talking about a toxin, when you're talking about a CO2 therapy, when you're talking about a thread lift, we get it, we understand it. We've insured many people on that before. I do worry sometimes that when you're just going online and you're picking the first product, does your insurer really understand what you're doing? And why you're doing it, and that's what we've worked on for the last 20 odd years.
You've been watching the ABC Vodcast Special 2023, brought to you by Hamilton Fraser and our headline sponsor, Mertz.
Well, that's ABC complete for another year. Thank you to everybody who attended our event, and for those of you taking the time to watch this vodcast special, we hope you enjoyed. And please do let us know in the comments below. Remember to like, follow and subscribe to this podcast, and for more tips, advice and educational content, please head online to hamiltonfraser.co.uk/content-hub. And if you're a new practitioner just starting out, or you're looking to renew your cosmetic insurance policy, then don't forget to hit that quote button on our homepage for a super quick and easy quotation online, hamiltonfraser.co.uk.